The station where our veterans' voices are heard, MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Quack.
Program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Ah, there it is. You tuned in to the Farron Dozier Show on nbradio.us, TikTok edition, and Live Sports. Catch me here Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific time, only on nbradio.us. Shout out. How did I do? Was that a good take? That might be. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm blessed, my brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hey, did you see the game last night?
Oh, that was a good game.
But did you see the shot?
I lost money from that shot.
Oh, man, that shot was cold,
I
man.
hated it, but it was good. Damn. What's in those jeans?
You really want to know?
I do.
Exhaustion, muscle spasms, asthmatic issues, unexpected sickle cell trait crises.
Damn. Are you serious? When I was young, I found out I had sickle cell trait. My mom's told me, but I ain't have no knowledge of it. But when I got older, I had a child, and the doctor told me my daughter has sickle cell trait. You know the facts that both parents have sickle cell trait? There's a 50% chance the child may have the trait, and 25% chance the child may have the disease.
Hey, that's what's the count. Do you know that 2.5 million people in the United States have sickle cell trait, 300 million people globally? I didn't find out I had sickle cell trait until I was in the Army, 10 years. Next thing you know, I had a sickle cell trait exertion site.
Sickle cell? I thought that was a black gene or something.
Nah, man, the Latin community is number 2. 1 out of 36,000 babies are being born with sickle cell disease. You could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, European. You gotta know your bloodline, man. There is an inherited gene in our community that has been forgotten. The name is sickle cell trait. WDCONSCT, also known as What's the Count, is out to bring awareness, education, and prevention to people all over the globe. Want more information? Call us now at 323-215-5384 or visit www.wdconsct.org.
It's the guts and it's the glory, 100 stripes, 100 stories. It's the Pledge of Allegiance on the 4th of July. It's them handwritten letters from home. It's them sleepless nights alone. It's his newborn baby he left with his wife. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's a line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Hey. From the fields of Indiana to the swamps of Louisiana to the golden coast of California, Uncle Sam's the only family he's got. His purple heartbeat won't stop, and his 18th birthday was the day he was born. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's the light. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, stand on the front line. alive. Hey. Hey.
Do you remember studying sickle cell in biology class? What's the Count on Sickle Cell Trait Prevention is here to bring you awareness, education, and prevention conversations around the risk factors of this inherited gene. Visit wdconsct.org. Well, all right. Welcome to the Farron Dozier Show on the Military Broadcast Radio Network. Thanks for tuning in today. As always, we have a very important show for you right here on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific time. Check this out. You can catch me on KCA Radio. That's right. KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM in the Inland Empire, the IE. Sunday nights at 8 p.m., the Farron Dozier Show and the Sports Collective TV media segments we do over there, as well as sometimes over here on Wednesdays. So you can catch me those days of the week, having conversations just about life, as we're going to have a discussion today. It is the day after Veterans Day. I want to shout out to my sister. I was in the GA, and she gave me the shirt right here. It's a little bear like that. Boom, right? You see that? So that's my sister. Shouts out to Jazz. But also, you know, I've had this guy probably my entire career that I had. So I purchased this bear. Man, I want to say I joined in 89. So probably 2 years into my military service, I joined the military, and I think it was at Camp Roberts during one of those training sessions, and they had the little stuffed bears in there. So he's booted up. Like I said, this guy's been with me probably 22 years of my 24 years. So I'm going to take and put him back over here on the side. But today's topics, you know, as I said, Veterans Day just ended yesterday. I was blessed to do a talk on Monday. I shared that post as well for Riverside University Behavioral Health. I was honored to be the keynote speaker for that in such a it was cool. It was a, you know, I want to say short notice, but again, I'm available, especially for those conversations. It's weird. I'm available, you know, for work stuff, but I'm still managing those outside relationships. What are you doing on the weekend? I'm like, I don't know. But if somebody says, "What do you want to? Can you speak Saturday?" I'll be like, "Yeah, lock me in." So something I'm dealing with. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, eventually. It helps me manage my anxiety. I could put it to you that way. If I language it, it helps me manage my anxiety. So work is definitely important. So I was going to actually just take the day off and just kind of just chill. Again, so much, you know, got these things happening, going on, recovering from all the talking. Even had a show yesterday on Beyond 2D. Shouts out to Jessica and her dad, Mr. Cushing. He was there as a Navy veteran. We are peeling off labels on the Beyond 2D season 3 finale, wrapping it up this year with a lot of conversations that we see in the world. Shouts out to Jessica for being my teammate in that and wanting to have those hard topics. And so we were able to go Beyond 2D yesterday and talk about the labels of war and peace. From my perception of that, or my interpretation of how I addressed that conversation, was not the war and peace in the physical sense, right? It was more for the war and peace in our mindset, in our emotional state. And we had some discussions about that. Next up, on the 25th of November, we're going to be in Beyond 2D talking about the labels of politics. And so shouts out to the Breakthrough Show Network. I'm on those episodes every second and fourth Tuesday. for this end of the season. We might be changing that date, so just stay tuned for that if it shows up on a different day next season. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. That's the space I'm in. Just recovering from all of those last 2 days of such a important conversation. I mean, when you talk about veterans, as I said yesterday on Monday, we're people first. And we even forget that sometimes as we label ourselves that I'm a person first. And then all these labels as a broadcaster and an advocate for sickle cell trait and an advocate for rhabdo and a broadcaster on this network and a broadcaster on that network. And yeah, that could be a lot for some. I look over my military career, being AGR. The one thing that I can tell you the difference between an AGR person and a person who is, active Army component. The jobs are the same, job skills are the same. However, for an AGR personnel like myself, I had about seven things I was responsible for, if not every day throughout that week. So my brain is wired still like to have that high up tempo mindset that I gotta be doing something. And I feel like if I'm not doing something, then what am I going to be doing? And that could be a good thing in one hand, and then also maybe not so good in other parts of the areas of my life, right? So now it's like I've only got one life. So then, are the things that I'm up to today what I really want to be about? And those are at question. So today I wanted to talk about that from my own life, from what's next, from my own sorting things out about life. What is next? What's up next? And I got to this point only because I was dealing with grief from the loss of my dad. And as I peeled those layers off of grief the last 6 years, I discovered something about myself that had me in a frame of mind of feeling this void, right? So, grief to me is a very important conversation. It wasn't really that important until my dad passed. It was important when my grandmother passed, but it took me 10 years to get through my grandmother. That was one of the most significant deaths of my life before my dad was my grandma. And because I lived with her for, those 6 years, that was very significant. And it took me 10 years when that thought popped in my head one night at Fort Irwin. I shared that story. I was walking the yard about 1:00 in the morning because my platoon would come in off of the log packs and the convoys, and they wouldn't chock block the tire. They wouldn't put the drip pan underneath the truck, and we're driving fuelers, right? And so those are important. You don't want any kind of any oil spills, especially on the ground at Fort Irwin. If you ever been to Fort Irwin, they hazmat is number one. And so I had got in trouble because it rolls downhill. So the sergeant major went to my first sergeant, and I'm the platoon sergeant. And so they weren't doing that. So it was my responsibility when they came back in that I would walk out. I didn't even grab my section sergeant. I just went out and just walked the yard with my flashlight. And, it's like I said, it's, 1:00 in the morning, sometimes 2 a.m., midnight. But this particular night, it was dark because when you're out, especially in that area, and when there's no moon, if you ever been outside with no moon, pitch black, like it's pitch black dark. Stars are about the only thing that's lighting up the sky. And so that night I was out walking the yard, that yard, and as I'm walking, I'm thinking about life. I'm just walking through. I was going through a lot of stuff. I was dealing with a lot of stuff in that deployment too, physically and emotionally. But as I walked through that night, my mind just was like, "Oh, call mama," and I'm like, "Oh yeah." and I spit the number out in my head, and then my mind was like, "Oh, you can't call her. She's not here anymore." And it was like in that moment of that conversation in my head, it was like that grief experience of whatever I was feeling during those 10 years, it actually like just fell off because I said out of my mouth, like, she's not here, but I said it out loud. Usually we have conversations inside of our head, right? And when our mouth is closed and your brain is going and your subconscious mind is giving you all this information and judging and cynical and forming opinions, and you're just listening to that chatter in your head, not even questioning it, because we grew up thinking that that voice in our head is us. That's me talking to me. So that's me. That's Farron right there. When I got wind of that wasn't Farron, life shifted. But that night, when I said it out loud of my mouth, I can't call her. She's not here anymore. It was like I heard myself say that to myself. The you versus the lowercase u spoke to the lowercase u, the capital Y-O-U. And it went away. Like I said, I felt lighter. Like I was like, oh yeah, that's right. And I went on about the yard. But I remember how significant that is because that was the night that I just released that grief of 10 years, right? So 6 years ago when my dad passed, I got the phone call from the caregiver. He had been passed, so he had been transitioned since Friday. It was Tuesday. And I didn't talk to him that weekend because I was studying. I was TV broadcasting school. So we would go, it was normal to go 3 or 4 days without talking. Usually we see each other on social media or something like that. But that Friday evening, he transitioned. And so Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So when I got that phone call from her, that voicemail first, I got the voicemail first because I was in class and I played it, I heard it, and then I stopped it and I called her. And we had the conversation on the phone, and that's where she was hysterical, crying and just telling me what was going on with my dad. And I'm like, okay, let me know when the ambulance gets there, the police, whatever, I'm thinking like I see on TV, hey, y'all, they'll take care of that. They'll get the coroner. I'll just go to the wherever and view the body and be done with it. Like, yeah, no, that's not real life. TV is not always real life. So I hung up the phone with her, and out of my mouth, I say, my dad died. And then I say out of my mouth, I'm done. Now, if you understand how powerful the brain is with the brain patterns, we have action patterns, memory patterns, perception patterns. So when you understand just the basics of that, and you look and you apply that to your own life, and then you understand the spiritual context of out of the mouth comes the issues of life, out of the heart, and you know how powerful our tongue is, and what we say in one word, we can set a whole relationship on fire, exploding with dynamite because of just something that we say out of our mouth. And I said that out of my mouth that I'm done. And maybe that lasted maybe a day, 2 days, 3 days. I know I spent the next couple of days trying to clean out his apartment. But whatever day that I realized that I said that, like, I can't be done because I'm in school. I got this 9/11 GI Bill that's paying me to go to school. I'm not even halfway done. This is May. I don't graduate until September. So I still have some time left. I have class. Do I want to pay this? Like my mind was just going over and over. Like, if I quit, if I shut down, if I give up, if I walk away from being an advocate from sickle cell trade, if I walk away from a broadcaster, if I walk away from this school, if I just shut down and just go crawl in a hole and just cry and just be in the dark, could I do that? And for a second, I felt like I could. But then I remembered all the stuff that I just ran off to you that I know I can't be done. Oh, by the way, and my grandson is my daughter's pregnant. She's about to have my grandson. So now I'm grandpa. I can't quit. I can't walk. I can't stop. I can't shut down. However, my subconscious mind, because I said that out of my mouth that day, my mind started to collect evidence, negative evidence, to reinforce the fact that I'm done. So I started wanting to be done, mentally shutting down, but then I have all this stuff that I'm up to. So we call ourselves as being able to decompartmentalize life issues segments, and we take that little, and so I took that grief and I put it in a little box and I stored it somewhere in here, in this, where my brain is. Somewhere it was stored. I want to say it was way in the back, in the corner, like way back there. Not even by my ear, like maybe in the back. So I stored that, put that box, that his passing in that box, and I made it through school. I was able to finish the TV Broadcasting Academy. I was the first person in the school's history since 1983 to have a 90 and above in attendance and in academics in the radio and TV. I was the first person. And so very proud of that. Was able to finish strong in that school. And then right after that, I ended up taking a grief counseling at the VA to deal with that, because I understood principles. By then, you know, I'm 8 years into Landmark, you know, 9 years almost, from 2011 to 2019. I'm 8 years in Landmark, so I'm good, I think. So those 6 years, no, I'm looking back 6 years, and I'm playing back those episodes. I'm playing back my life experiences. I'm playing back how I treated people. I'm playing back of the relationships that I damaged. I'm playing back how I shut down, trying not to shut down. I'm playing back doing interviews where I set up a guest and then I don't want to talk. So now I'm forcing myself to interview people. I'm forcing myself to be present. My interviewing skills suffer because I'm challenged in connecting. I don't want to connect with anybody. I just really want to shut down and just walk away. Maybe take a year off. I was telling myself, maybe I'll just take a year off and take a break. But at the same time of that life experience, I started looking at my own life, how much time I got left. What am I like? Okay, how old am I going to be when I die? Am I going to make it? Am I going to be? Is my grandson going to be in his teenage years, his 20s? How much of his life do I get to see? Like my mind started going there, and I'm like, I don't want to live like that. I recognized it, and I'm just like, I cannot live that life. I do not want to sit here and question how much time I got, afraid to go to sleep. Like, I don't want that life. So I looked at my dad's life and I just saw who he was as a person. I looked at my mom's life. Now I'm going down my history, my ancestors, my grandparents, just thinking about all the stuff that they went through, what they did, who they were, what they believed in. And so I believed in what they believed in. I believe in the God that my mom and my dad and my grandparents believe in, the Trinity. I believe in God, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit. That's what my family believed, and I believe the same God. And so I went there, and I'm like, okay, God, you know what, man? Like, I don't want to live like this. I don't want fire insurance. I just don't want to, I don't want to go to hell. So I don't want that. Like, I don't want that either. I want more than fire insurance. I want to find this guy Christ for myself. I've heard about him. I've experienced him, but I want to find him for myself. And so in the midst of wanting to shut down and life is over and I'm done and I'm struggling mentally and emotionally, my spirit is now being fed. My mind is now focusing. I thought my Bible was in here. My mind started to, shut down, but my spirit started to lead my life. And I started to feed my spirit. And I started getting into church. I started looking at church. I started studying. I started going to church. And I saw that because my dad, he lived a sinless life. He taught me that you can sin less. He had his problems, he had his issues, he had life, he had his health, but he always gave that to God. He always prayed. He always talked about the Holy Spirit. He always was at church. So when I looked at his life as an example, I was like, you know what? I want to practice that. I want to practice living a sinless life. I don't want to sin. I don't want to sin anymore. I don't want to be rebellious up against God's word. Sin is not always that sexual taboo stuff. Sin is anything up against God's word that doesn't align with his principles, with his word. So I started that journey. Shouts out to Jody, Pastor Jones, the Ministry of Reconciliation. I started going there, started doing Bible study, started going to church, and I got it. Today I can tell you I got it. I found Christ for myself. I've applied those biblical principles to my life. I've transformed, I've healed some relationships, some areas, and I give God all the glory for that because I was not able to do that by myself. Now, my personal development classes are great. They work. Yes, they work. They're almost similar to biblical principles if you really look at the application of the process of how to apply those tools and distinctions to your life. Very similar. So by understanding principles, that we have to be used by them, and to understand that I've been used by some principles that were corrupted principles, I had to get another sense of my reality. I had to challenge those brain patterns. I had to challenge my perception pattern. I had to challenge my memory patterns. I had to challenge my action patterns. All that equated to my life. And when I was able to go back in those education classes in 2011, I started to unravel some of those perception patterns. I started to unravel some of those action patterns, like my behavior and how I reacted to life and responded to life. I also started to challenge some of those memory patterns. And in that space of challenging all that, life transformed. That's where transformation happens. Now that education was not going to save my soul. It's not about that topic. That's not what they're there for. They're a tool, principles, distinctions. So that conversation led me back to the word. And here I am now in 2019, and I'm searching Christ. I'm searching God. I received the Holy Spirit at 16, so I'm not naive to the biblical principles. I didn't know a lot of things. A lot of it was more religious than it was relationship. So this time around, I came back for a relationship with Christ. And in the midst of that, going through those processes and developing myself in the word and studying and applying those principles, finding the scriptures that match my stories, like all of it unraveled in the word. Like everything that I was dealing with was a passage of somebody who went through that God showed us as an example in the Old Testament. Even when Christ came on the scene in the New Testament, and then who he was being as a person, as a living word. So now you have the Old Testament that can give you some references, what was going on with God and how he was handling the people that he created in his image, and then how he sent Christ to die for us for all the stuff that the first Adam lost, which was the kingdom, the government that he had. So when I looked at all of that, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm fine. I'm on. I don't want to say I'm on fire, but I'm on fire. Like I'm getting it in. Relationships fell off, completed relationships, because I started to realize that I had to figure out who Farron was with no labels. And I can tell you with those brain patterns and perception patterns, those memory patterns and those action patterns, if I put it in that context for you, wow, there's a piece of me in all of that. There's a piece of me in the memory patterns. There's a piece of me in the perception patterns. And there's a piece of me in the action patterns. So what I saw with my dad's passing was that from 2011 to 2019, I was living in a living life context. Living life. See, most of us live in a survival life where we go back and forth. But I still do it today. Sometimes I'm in survival mode. Sometimes I'm living life. So in that living life, it's a be, do, and have. That's how I learned it from my education. Be, do, and have. So prior to my dad's passing, that phone call, that Tuesday afternoon, prior to that phone call, Farron was living from 2011 to 2019 in a be, do, have experience of life. I was being the advocate. I was doing what advocates do. And I was producing the results that I wanted to produce as an advocate. And you see it. You see it. I produced the results in the end of what I wanted to have as an advocate, the results. The radio shows, the speaking engagements, the college class, the nonprofit, like you name it, going into the military, HBCU tours, speaking at conferences, speaking in front of scientists and doctors and researchers about sickle cell trait. Like I'm the expert. Like, no, I'm just a patient advocate. I had to do the work to discover this gene that I carried and the impact of it. Like I almost died from that inherited gene, sickle cell trait. I went in to discover so I could learn about that gene. I found my voice in that gene that was given to me in my mother's womb from God. I was a broadcaster. I went to radio school. I was being that. I was being a broadcaster in TV broadcasting. So I was being it. And I was doing what they do. I studied. I was on the cameras. I was on creating commercials, making copy, like editing videos. Like my director's eye, as a TV broadcaster, you develop your director's eye. And I developed that. The creativity was there, all of it. I mean, I made game shows. Like we had to create different aspects of TV broadcasting so you could pick which field, was attractive to you. I made a game show. I did interviews. I was doing the news and the weather with the green screen. I was behind the camera on the switcher. Like I know I was in that space. I was producing results. But when I said I'm done, when I said my dad died and I'm done, what that did, as I said, my subconscious mind took that and it reframed my whole life. It reframed it back to the survival state of mind, which is I gotta have it, and then I'll do it, and then I'll be the advocate, or I'll be the broadcaster, or I'll be whatever that be is. So I have to have the school to do the advocacy work, and then I'll be an advocate. But this is the kicker. I have to have the talk show to do the talk show, and then I'll be a broadcaster. I'll be a talk show host. And inside of that, when I look back, it was no wonder I had like 5-6 shows. I had at least 5 shows. I have at least 10 segments. Like I got a lot of show ideas right here. I got enough shows that I could actually be on the radio 7 days a week, at least 2 to 3 or 4 hours at a day. 7 days. If I really wanted to be a broadcaster in the world, like a big boy, like whoever you listen to on the radio, I could be that kind of person because I have the content. I live the content. I have the ability to be on the radio 7 days a week, 2 hours, 3 hours, probably 4, because I would probably play music. And so if you listen to radio, 12, they play 12 songs per hour. Everything else is a little bit of talking and a little bit of report and a sports report, and then a contest and traffic. Like, if you listen to radio, it's not that challenging. So I'm saying that to say that when I discovered just this a few weeks ago, and I look back and I started to deal with choosing my life the way it is and the way it isn't. And my classes taught, applied, put my life in that story. I saw that I had been resisting some part of my life. I hadn't chose certain areas of my life. I defended parts of my life. And so to put myself in that topic that day, and I put the stories in there, and again, what popped up was me standing in the hallway at that episode and me watching myself in my mind say that my dad died and I'm done. And that showed me that I went from be, do, have to have, do, be. So the 6 years that have passed, I've been in this survival state of mind of grief, filling up that void with radio shows and filling up that void with pain and suffering. It was a mixture. And as soon as I got that, I realized that, I looked at that, and I was like, oh my gosh, how did I miss that? That's one of our key principles. It's not what you do in life, it's who you be in life. I know that, but I wasn't being that. I recognized it, and then I went back to the doing first, or the have first. So I didn't feel successful anymore. Like I was diminished. I didn't feel like a broadcaster. I didn't feel like an advocate. I don't even know what I was feeling. I was surviving. And that led me down to start to reflect. And when I put that back in order of the be, do, and have, I was sitting right here in the class online, and this room just lit up. I got a glimpse of my vitality come back, like I could breathe. And as the light got brighter, I got peace in that area of grief. It was like I ripped off 6 layers of grief by just putting my perspectives, my perceptions back in order of living life versus surviving life. And so I'm saying all this to paint this picture for you, if you're willing to look in your own life at some of these empirical truths. Empirical truths are, you don't have to go Google none of this. Apply those conversations to your life. Apply those principles to your life and see what shows up. It's not really, I'm not going to say it's not hard, because you have to be willing. I've been chasing peace of mind for 15 years. That chasing peace of mind for me interprets to, I interrupted the willingness to die. See, we wonder why, our veterans' suicide rate is 1 every 65 minutes. I'm not saying that this is the reason why, but I'm saying the relatedness to that conversation of my own personal experience, which I'm sure I'm not the only one, was a willingness to die. Like, I was like, life was over. Like, I said that, my life is over. Like, we have to watch how we talk. We have to watch what we say. We have to watch what comes out of our mouth, our hearts. And so, I've been cleaning that mess up. Because after I looked and I recognized it, I could then look at the damage I could look at the damage that I caused, that I didn't clean up. I could look at the relationships that were broken, that were fractured. Can you imagine, your parent passing away, and then you're feeling like, do I even want a relationship? Because that means that person's going to die. Well, we're all going to die, right? At some point. But can I live into that future of the person that I choose to be with is going to die? Like, you can't live into that's the future of uncertainty. That's where my mind goes. So I have to manage that. And so as I look and talk about my life, and getting back in church and choosing the life the way it is and the way it isn't, I have these inspirational reads. The life of a 14-year-old, the day I gave up being vulnerable. That's what I just discovered. I just discovered that there was a day that I gave up being vulnerable at 14. And the day that I made that decision of not being vulnerable and I have to defend myself in relationships, it's no wonder. It's no wonder my relationships fail. Personal, intimate, marriage. No relationship had a chance. Because I would defend myself. If I'm right or if I'm wrong, if it's toxic and I know it's toxic, I could fix it. Give me a chance. I could, no, don't break up with me. Or I hang on, hopelessness and despair and disappointment and shame and embarrassment. Yeah. So that conversation of discovering that and choosing loss, choosing grief, choosing my life the way it is and the way it isn't. At the same time, I was been feeding my spirit. I've been looking at the biblical principles. I've been looking at the Beatitudes. I've been looking at Jesus Christ, his ways, not just his works, not just the miracles that he did. Because see, check this out. In the Old Testament, when I look at Moses, in the passage of Moses and the Israelites, and I look at the 40 years that they walked through that wilderness, I look at every day from the moment they left Egypt with all the riches and all the stuff, and then parting the Red Sea, and then getting into the wilderness, and then being blessed every day for 40 years. They had miracles every day. So how important is a miracle to us? It's not. It's not important. It really isn't important. Because we don't even see the miracle that we have right now. We don't even really acknowledge the miracles to have the internet, to be on this computer, to be talking to this microphone on a that's a miracle. This is a miracle. But they had 40 years. They walked on a 20-day walk for 40 years, and they had miracles every day. Their shoes didn't wear out. Their clothes didn't wear out. They had food falling from the sky and water out of a rock, and a staff that healed them. They had miracles for 40 years, and they still complained. They still had an attitude with Moses. They still would rather be in Egypt as a slave. They still, after all that. So then I took that passage and I put myself in that passage, and I realized that I was in the same wilderness with them. But that passage showed up for me as an emotional state. But that passage is about their heart. See, the Bible is about the heart of us. That passage is a perfect example of what life looks like today still. That the heart of man is still fractured and corrupted and hurt, embarrassed, or whatever that is. Just put your life in that context and in that principle and see what comes out. Most of us are living avoiding shame, disappointment, and embarrassment. One of those three, or all of them. And your anger is connected to that. Your frustration is connected to one of those. Who you think people see you as is connected to one of those. That if they find out about who you really are, you'll be embarrassed. You'll be shamed. And more so, you'll be disappointed, but not in them, in yourself, for pretending like I've been okay, but I'm not okay. So when I saw that passage, I looked, I'm like, man, they had miracles every day. So how important are miracles to us? Not so much. So I say that because look at their hearts. And there was no way in the world that God was going to allow them to go into Canaan straight out of Egypt, because in Canaan, they would have had to take and develop everything from scratch, from nothing. See, when God created new nations, he got them slaves because they didn't have no identity. They had nothing, they had zero. And he wanted them to rely on him for everything, even where they come from. Because look, they was 400 years plus in Egypt. 400 years in Egypt with no history. Brought out of Egypt into the wilderness with no ancestral history. None. They didn't have nothing. God provided everything. So I learned that in the Word. I studied that. I looked at that. I put my life in there. And I saw that for myself, even today, that miracles aren't that important. It's how am I surviving life right now? I know I'm a sinner. I know I'm rebel against God's word, and I want to figure out how can I live in peace right now. Not peace when I die. How can we have peace on earth in this world, in these systems right now? You can. But you got to go back and see what Christ said. Who we need to be. Then what you need to do. You got to be a certain kind of person. You got to be. And then you got to do stuff to experience, to have the results that you want to produce in that word. So the landmark classes and the personal development classes and the Bible and the grief therapy and the cognitive behavior, all that, it's like I had to get new software. It's like I had to go and get new information because the information that I had in my brain patterns were corrupted. Not all of it. And corrupted to the point where it's not right or wrong, good or bad, but it's how I survived for 40 years. I survived with those brain patterns, with those memory patterns that were corrupted, that were filled with abandonment and broken trust and lack of confidence and shame and anger and frustration and disappointment and despair and hopelessness, all mixed in with the good stuff too, though. I wasn't a bad person. I was quiet. I was shy. I thought I was easy to get along with. Those were also corrupted too, because it was still protecting the other stuff. See, it was all mixed in together. It's still mixed in there right now. But the more that I've gotten into the word and those classes, I've been able to balance that out. So now that my mind, my subconscious mind, because you got to get that in your heart. So once I got that education in my heart, I got the kind of behavior in my heart, I got the grief counseling in my heart, I got the word in my heart. Now I filter that. But I had to pick something. So you have to pick, what are you going to use to lead your life? What are you going to use to challenge your reality up against? You have to pick something. You have to find an education. You have to find you got to believe in something outside of yourself that you trust, that you've tested, that when you apply that principle, man, you don't even recognize yourself. I have to pinch myself to see, like, who is this dude? Because that's not the dude from 40 and below. So when you find those principles that you trust, that you've tested up against your thoughts and your memories and your behavior, and you realize that, oh my goodness, like, that's not who I am today, man, your life alters. But guess what? That's what the Bible says. Repent, turn, change the way that you think. Get the thoughts of Christ. Change your behavior. Love yourself with the same measure that you love your neighbor. Love God first. Like, when you put it's like phenomenal. So I've experienced being transformed in personal development, but I've just experienced being free indeed by the word of God. And that, it's another level of peace. See, because when I realized that all the decisions that I made about my dad and not wanting to quit and wanting to give up, and I'm not successful, and there's something wrong with me, I don't belong, I'm on my own, I don't really honor my word to myself, so then how can I keep my word to somebody else? I don't really have resilience because I really don't bounce back. I say I have resilience, but I wear it like a badge, but silently, I don't bounce back. I don't complete things that I give my word to. I just, I'm not going to do that right now. I'll go do something else. And then you got 7 projects, and none of them have been completed. And now you forget that you made up the game, and now you're stuck in the game that you made up. I made up my advocacy work. I made up this broadcaster. I made up being an owner or a co-owner of an ABA basketball team. I made that up. I made it up. I made that up. So my sickle cell trait advocacy could look however I want it to look. But when I made it up, I put everything on there. And so now when I feel like I'm not doing this over here for that, I feel like I'm not successful, like I'm not doing it right. And then I look bad. But I made it up. I made up being a owner of a basketball team because I went to God and like, hey man, I want a basketball. I want to use basketball as a ministry. Okay. And guess what happened? 3 teams, not 1, but 3. But was I emotionally prepared for that? Was I emotionally ready for that? What I asked for? Did God give me those, or did Satan say, "Yeah, I'm gonna give you that," and this hits a distraction from putting me in God's word? I had to question that because I went to God. See, we don't realize that when we go to God for stuff and we say it out of our mouth, guess who's listening? Satan and his devices are listening. And just like when Christ went to the wilderness for 40 days to be tested, right out the gate, at the 40th day, maybe the 41st day, he's tested by Satan to see if he really believed what he believed. And all Christ did was use the word. It is written. It is written. It is written. So I'm saying that because the life that I've created, I made it up. And I know that God gave me this message. That inherited gene that I was born with, sickle cell trait, I know that that's my it's in the Bible, Judges chapter 4. I know that that's my blueprint of my advocacy work. My job is to mobilize the community. That's all I'm supposed to do. It's drop the awareness, drop some education, drop some preventive measures, but it's up to the people. It's up to the people to apply that to their life or not. And I'm not here to get the credit for it. I'm here to be about the work. I can't reach everybody, and this conversation is not for everybody. Now, I could play the game that I need to reach the whole world about sickle cell trait, but then is that what God has for me? No. He told me that's not your part is not the whole world. Your part is going to be the people that I put in your place, in your space, to deliver that message. And it may be one person a week. It may be one person a month. It may be 50 people at one time. It may be 10,000 at once. It may be nobody that day. But even with nobody there, these talk shows and these videos, somebody might see that 2 years from now. I got proof on TikTok from a talk I did at Camp Roberts. Now, I don't even like TikTok, but I put it on TikTok. And people are watching it, and they're coming up and they're putting messages about their sickle cell trait experience. So I know it works. But my point is, you have to realize that you make up stuff. And then we lose sight that we made it up, and then we get stuck because it's not turning out how we're not wanted to turn out. Well, because maybe you're living in a have, do, be. You're not experiencing being that person because it's at the end. If I'm a rapper, I rap for the cause. But if I'm a rapper and I'm living in a survival state of mind, I have to have the contract, right? And then I'm gonna do what rappers do, write my rhymes, perform. Maybe I don't perform in little crowds, but I might wait to try to get a crowd together that's like, a concert type. And then I'll do the concert, and then I'll be the rapper at the end. It does work, but that's a long process because you don't experience being the rapper first. And a have, do, be, I don't experience being the advocate until after I do the work. That's the mind that I went in my grief. I gave up, I'm done, and then boom. From be, do, have to have, do, be. And it's not Nike. You just can't do it. I love the brand. No knock to the brand. But in the performance life, maybe in performance, you either do it or you don't do it. That's performance. In the world of performance, yes. So I do agree with Nike. In the world of performance, you're either doing it or you're not doing it. You either take the shot or you don't take the shot. You either pass it or you don't pass it. You either do the exercises or you don't. You either get on the treadmill or you don't. How I feel about the treadmill has nothing to do with it. How I feel about the shot has nothing to do with it. So yes, I do get just do it. In the activities of life, but in the experience of life is where I'm talking about. You might be just doing it, but are you frustrated? Are you upset doing it? Are you angry doing it? Are you disappointed doing it? Are you living in the future of uncertainty doing it? Are you embarrassed doing it? Are you happy doing it? Are you joyful doing it? Are you patient doing it? Are you calm doing it? Are you perseverance doing it? Are you resilience doing it? We have to focus on the experience of life. I'm an advocate for the experience of life. And you can pretend like everything's fine, like I did, and see your world shrink and experience the pressures of life, whatever that pressure is for you. I look at Maslow's chart of hierarchy. You gotta have those: shelter, air, water, clothes, reproduction, water. Those are the basic needs of human beings. But the Bible says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all that stuff that Maslow's talking about will be added to your life automatically. So do you want to live life, or do you want to survive life like Maslow's? Which is not wrong, because Maslow's chart is legit. It is legit. By the time you get all those basic needs, you will experience the next level of safety and security. And then you got all those needs for the safety and security, you can feel the next level. And when you have all those figured out, but if you lose your shelter at the bottom, then how are you gonna go up the levels when you have one of those out of place? So you experience going up and down the pyramid. And if you don't have shelter, then you're worried about shelter. If you don't have water, mine was water. I had something for each one of those. But I look at the water one. The water one's connected to my sickle cell trait, because when I collapsed, they would say it was dehydration. They said it was heat stroke. They said it was rhabdo, and that was a trigger. And so I'm never drinking enough water anymore. My fear since 2006 was I'm never going to drink enough water. So how can I go to the gym and exercise if I'm not drinking enough water? And then how much is enough water? I got to drink a gallon of water a day to go to the gym? Like, I don't drink a gallon of water a day. On the best day, I don't. So my mind is letting me know that if you don't drink water, you can't go to the gym because you're going to die. The gym's going to kill you. That was my talk to myself. If I don't drink enough water that day, I'm not going to the gym because I don't want to die trying to exercise. So guess what? Years go by and I don't exercise. Years go by that I don't go to the gym just to get out of the house for a few hours, just to be in the environment and hear the balls bouncing and to maybe go take a shot. If that's all I do is go in the gym and take a shot. But remember, I had a basketball identity. What's your identities that you deal with that you don't address because of whatever might happen again? So as a patient advocate, I advocate for the experience of life. Listen to the heart of mankind. Because if I know what I was dealing with for the first 40 years, I can only imagine what y'all dealing with in your first 40, 30, 20, 60, 70 years of life. I don't have it all figured out, but I do know the power of principles. Look, if you own a hammer, go look at your hammer and look at it in the toolbox or look at it in the drawer. In the drawer, that hammer is powerful. We know it. We've seen the power of a hammer. Right? Sledgehammer. That was one of my favorite songs right there. I'm your sledgehammer. No. So we know the power of a hammer just by looking at it. We know how powerful that hammer is. But it doesn't get expressed until you pick it up and it's used by you. Where you experience the power of the hammer. Do you understand that? The hammer itself is powerful, but not until it's used by you is you experiencing the power of the hammer. That's the word of God. That's my personal development classes. Those are the kind of classes that we teach. Those are principles. That's the best example that I could give you besides gravity. A hammer is powerful, even in the toolbox, but it's not experienced or expressed until you pick up the hammer and it's being used by you. So imagine you are used by the word of God as a hammer. Imagine you're using the grief counseling principles like being used by you as a hammer. Imagine you're using personal development education, those principles being used by you like a hammer, and you experience the force of those principles. Look, you're experiencing those forces right now with a hammer that has drama. You might be using the drama hammer. You might be using the anger hammer. You might be using the whatever hammer, the disappointment hammer. Your perception patterns might be that of such that causes you to use the drama hammer. Your action patterns are going to automatically allow you to use that drama hammer. I've talked for an hour. I was going to do a rerun. But I'm learning there. I don't like to be a talking head. Like, I don't want to just sit here and talk. But this is how I get to express myself. This was my own personal therapy. So I became a broadcaster, not to interview people, but to stay connected and to express myself. And then maybe have a guest and the relatedness comes into play. But what if I have no guests and I'm not a broadcaster? No, because there's nobody wants to hear me talk. I don't even want to talk. Talking to you. Where are you at? Who's over there? What are y'all doing? Where you at? What's that right there? What's that? What is that? No, see, it's cool though. But I found my voice. I found my voice in my what's next. I found an activity of life, which is my sickle cell trait, my rhabdo talks. And I found my experience of life, which is the word of God and my experience of myself and the stuff that I went through. Out of all of it, you have to be willing to do the work. And some people aren't willing. Believe me, you got to be willing. And I'll end it with this. I've shared my classes that I'm in. The biggest part of my whole breakthrough, and when it comes to freedom and peace of mind, is this one piece right here. I had to allow my body to release the stress, to release the anxiousness, to release the disappointment, to release the anxiety, to release the worry. So when I'm in my classes and I'm doing the work and I'm applying those principles to my life and I'm applying them to those stories that I made up and I'm unraveling those stories and I'm getting insights on, wait a minute, that's what that is. That's not, no, that wasn't that. That's not me. Oh, that's what that, oh, wait a minute. And then all of a sudden, when I figure it out, there's this, that was a ache in my gut when I discovered that. And then when I discovered that ache and I discovered that principle and I apply that principle to the story, to unravel the story and tell the truth to myself about that cause or what happened, and then the body sensation kicks in with the ache, guess what happens? The ache goes away because the thought and the body sensation and the story that was all connected is now challenged. It's now like, oh, my life's not over. Oh, and that pain is gone, but guess what's left? There's a space where that body starts to then release all of the anxiousness, all of the that we feel it, but we think we're suppressing it. Remember, because we got it stored in the back of our mind, and we suppress it. We think, but then could that be why we know that stress kills? Could that be why that we know cancer is caused by the white cells? Those autoimmune disorders that I have. I have arthritis. I have an autoimmune issue that I experience. Could that be because our body is chemicals? So on a cellular level, our bodies are, remember, our brains, our body's not designed for worry or stress. God didn't design us to handle that. That's why he teaches us not to have those worries and concerns about life. To seek him first, and all that other stuff, the water, the food, the shelter, the sex, the reproduction, the air, the clothes will be added. So I wonder if people are afraid to feel that pain one last time. You might have to feel that body sensation one last time to be free from it. One last time to be free from that body sensation of anxiousness, of depression. Or maybe it's not the last time, because I keep finding it. So maybe because it's layered in my brain with the action patterns and the perception patterns and the memory patterns, that it's always going to be there. I'm always going to have some type of anxiousness come up. Then I have to choose the anxiousness. I have to choose the depression. I have to choose the loss. I have to choose. Because guess what? Once I chose loss didn't have me anymore. When I chose the loss of my father, after saying that he died and I'm done, I hadn't chosen that loss for 6 years. I chose the loss of my father, and then I had it. And guess what? Because now I have it and it doesn't have me, I can let it go. Or I can hold on to it. And now I understand why they say in the grief counseling, hey, when you feel those thoughts of the loss of that loved one and they come up, don't resist the thoughts. Go be with it. And I go be with it. And then when this passes, I can let it go. But if it has me, when those thoughts come up, I'm stuck with it, and I have to sit with it until it goes away. And it could be a day, an hour, 20 minutes, 2 weeks, 6 years. But I saw that when I chose life the way it is and the way it isn't, my dad's not here anymore. I have to choose life that he's not here no more. I want to choose life with him being here. But I also have to choose life that in reality that he's not here physically. So when I chose the loss out of all the multiple other things that I chose, I saw that I had to choose loss, because that's what showed up in my life that matters to me in my behavior and who I'm being today and my experience of myself in that grief. I chose loss. Now I'm holding loss. Now it doesn't have me. I have it. And I let loss go. And when I let loss go, I felt free. So now it doesn't have me. Now I'm going to feel it. Yes. The reality of it. Yes. The humanness of my father. Yes. But at least when it shows up, I grab it. It doesn't grab me anymore. But I had to be used by something other than how I thought about grief. I had to find something outside of myself other than how I thought about loss. And that's why this grief conversation is so important to me, because I was in it. Now I could feel how people feel. I felt it with my grandmother, but I never connected it with like the loss of my parent. Now I could see my parents in the loss of their parents. The number one loss and grief is the parent losing the child first. The second is the child losing the parent. And then we have cousins and uncles and aunties and grandma. But the first one is the parent who loses their child first. And then the child who loses their parent. Why is that? Maybe because there's some stuff that hasn't been reconciled. Maybe there's some stuff that was going on that hadn't been dealt with or addressed. And now that person's gone, you don't get to address it the way that you thought you should have or could have, but now that they're gone. They call that resentment and regret. So are you holding on to resentment and regret? Or are you just holding on to the loss of the humanness? See, I was holding on to the loss of the humanness of my dad, wishing he was still here, looking in the mirror and seeing his face and my face, looking at my beard and having to rearrange my own beard so that I didn't see him in the mirror every day because I had a full beard. But guess what? I hear myself talk to my grandchildren and I hear my dad's voice coming out of my mouth, like him saying that to them, how I heard him talk to my daughters. So can you imagine growing up and now having this grief of the parent who's now their voice is like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker, who's like, remember I told you about that, Farron? Yeah, Dad. Okay, so now you see it? Yeah, now I get it, Dad. Thank you. That's real life. That's the experience of life. So today's episode was titled Just Life. I pray that you heard something for yourself. These conversations are near and dear to my heart. These are very important. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a researcher or a doctor, PhD, none of that. I'm a patient advocate. And I've done my work. And I'm still doing it. I had to get new principles. I had to get something to challenge my mind up against that's outside of my mind. I had to get a new ideology. I had to get a new philosophy. I had to get a new theology. I had to. I had to find new meaning to life. I had to find out how to give life new meaning because those perception patterns and memory patterns were not working. They were not working. They were old memory patterns. So you're always going to be right. If you're using the same brain patterns and memory patterns and action patterns, you're always going to be right. Your opinions are always going to be right. And everybody else is wrong. But then you know you were wrong, but you still make people wrong. So then you suffer. I'm ending it with this. The ideology. This is the philosophy that I learned outside of myself. When I heard this for ideology, I'm like, oh, I'm using that right there. It says, as in baseball, shout out what's the count? As in baseball, the umpire calls that pitch a ball or a strike. So if you're a baseball fan, y'all Dodger fans that just won the World Series, whatever, shouts out to the Angels. But in baseball, the umpire calls that pitch a ball or a strike. When it comes across that plate, when that pitcher pitches that ball, it comes across that plate, that pitch don't mean anything. It doesn't matter what the coach says, what the pitcher says, what the fans say, what the catcher says. That pitch doesn't mean anything until the umpire calls it a ball or a strike. You see that? Imagine you lived your life like the umpire of your life. Imagine you live like it doesn't mean anything until you give it meaning. Until you give it a meaning. Yes, you can listen to people and get other insights from people, and people can tell you, oh, you shouldn't do that. You need to do it like this. Hey, okay, so tell me why you think I should do it like that. Give me your experience with that. Have you ever experienced that? So tell me then why you think I should do it that way. And then listen. And then now, before you make it a ball or a strike, you could go back and run the replay. Okay, you know what? It was high, but it was still inside. Maybe that wasn't a ball. Maybe it was a strike. Or maybe, you know what? Maybe I don't have to be like that kind of a person. I could be this kind of person. Or maybe I have to do it like that. I could actually design it and do it like this. And then I give it meaning to my life. But sometimes we allow outside forces to give meaning to our life. We allow our past experiences to give meaning to life currently today. Brain patterns, perception, memory, and action. Sometimes those patterns that we already have stored to navigate life, it might have been a strike and it wasn't a ball that day. Maybe my mom didn't abandon me. Maybe my dad didn't or did love me. Let me go rethink. Let me go look at and maybe go run that back. Maybe I gave some meaning to that was influenced by something else. Maybe she was never gonna leave me because I felt like my mom would go. But I made a decision that my mom was gonna leave me and I can't trust her. So now I can't trust women. So now every girl's gonna leave me. And I'm living into that. That's what I made it mean. But guess what? Maybe they wasn't ever gonna leave me. And then I sabotaged the relationship and pushed people away that really cared about me. But my perception pattern was like, my memory pattern was like, oh yeah, no. My action pattern is do this and get out of here. Do you understand that? The philosophy, this is my favorite. The new philosophy is a plane in autopilot self-corrects. So we're looking at airplanes. We got baseball, the Dodgers. We got airplane issues right now, right? So looking at airplanes, air traffic controllers, but the airplane in autopilot it self-corrects. So the pilot gets that plane off the ground. He's up in the air. He puts it in he sets the coordinates, puts it in autopilot, and let it go. All right? You understand that? You've been on the plane before. You know what that looks like, right? You know what that feels like. You can sense it, right? So a plane in autopilot self-corrects. It's never on course. The plane that's in autopilot, it self-corrects because it's never on course. It'll drift this way, and then the coordinates, it'll put it back into place. It'll drift a little bit, and then it'll self-correct. It'll drift, and it'll self-correct. Listen, a plane in autopilot self-corrects. It's never on course. Live life like the auto-correcting system. So what system is in the plane that when the pilot puts it in autopilot, that software auto-corrects it? That's a software. That's a program. That's a download. That's an app. That's a something in the airplane's setup that they trust. They trust that software to keep that plane in the right direction enough to auto-correct it if it gets off course. Now you tell me, what system are you using like that auto-correcting system? What software are you using? Is your software outdated? I was living life from a software of a 2-year-old. I was living life from a download from a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old and 11 and a 14. Like, do you understand that? Does that make any kind of sense? That's an empirical truth. That's an empirical truth. Live life like the autopilot, autocorrect. Like, you got to get that. You don't got to. Last time. A plane in autopilot self-corrects. It's never on course. Live life like the auto-correcting system. And if you live life like that, you're always going to be back on course. So when I go off course and I'm dealing with whatever I'm dealing with, I have that system, that software that I go look at that and I challenge that thought, I challenge that experience, I challenge my behavior, and I autocorrect it. Now you want to autocorrect it before somebody corrects you. That's a whole nother subject. Because when somebody has it pointed out, that's where it gets a little bit out of hand. Okay? Last one. My theology. My new theology, because it's not religious, it's relationship now. So here it is, my new theology. As much as we are told we are social beings in the human experience. So as a human being, we're social beings. That's why when we feel excluded, we feel like we're alone. When we feel like we're being abandoned, or when you're on punishment, you got to get out of my face, go to your room and be in that room by yourself. Go to jail, go to prison. You're excluded from the world. That hurts. That hurts. That hurts the human experience. Right? So the theology is, as much as we are told we are social beings in the human experience, the spirit has an additional conversation about this walk that can be alone from man, but present with God. Now, we're social beings, right? And we want to belong and we want to be connected to people. We want to hang around people. But that walk with Christ, with God, is by yourself. And that's what the spirit has to have. So we're spiritual beings. If you believe that, we're spiritual beings first, and then we have the soul and this body that gives us the senses and the survival skills to live this life that we live until we're out of here. Right? So that's the thought process. I had to get a new theology. And this is what it sounds like. This is how I put myself back on track. As much as we are told we are social beings in the human experience, the spirit has an additional conversation about this walk that can be alone from man, but present with God. So I had to get a new ideology, a new philosophy, and a new theology. I had to find something outside of myself to challenge my life up against. And I'm sharing with you that may be where you could look to start to transform and to reconcile and to heal your life experiences. Not the activity. You're going to do what you're going to do in performance. You either do it or you don't. But are you doing that upset and frustrated? Or are you doing that with patience and calmness or peace? And we have so many memory patterns and action patterns and perception patterns, and that my brain is going to go back to what I did to survive that moment. My brain is going to react first to how I survived that pain, because I have the action pattern, I have the memory pattern, and I have the perception pattern. And as soon as it looks like what my brain is looking at, thinking that this is about to happen again, we wonder why our relationship turned out always the same. We wonder why we're always right and they're wrong. It's your brain. It's not even you. It's not even you. That's why you can go in there and cook on the stove and know not to touch the oven or not to touch the fire or not to touch the pot because it's hot. You were trained that. That's why when you drive your car and you see those red lights pop up, it doesn't matter if you're on the phone, eating a burger and driving a stick with your leg and shifting gears. When you see red lights in front of you, boom, oh, I got to put my foot on the brake to slow this car down. It becomes natural. It becomes automatic. How much other stuff are we doing in life that causes us to do stuff automatically? That you're not even present. You're eating on the phone. You're eating on the phone, talking and driving and playing music. But you've been trained that in driving, because you have to survive that vehicle. Because if you don't survive that vehicle and you crash, you can die. So when that red lights come on, put your foot on the brake. That's what your parents taught us. That's what my dad taught me. Brake lights, put your foot on the gas, slow the car down. Natural. I ain't even got to think about it. That's how powerful our brain is. Look in your life. Your perception, your brain patterns, your memory patterns, and your action patterns. I hope you heard something for yourself. I appreciate you for listening in. This is the Farron Dozier Show on Military Broadcast Radio. I ain't take no commercials. I'm out of here. 90 minutes. Look, I had a blog talk show first back in 2010. It was 2 hours. So I've had talk shows 2 hours straight. So 90 minutes, I need at least 90 minutes anyway. So if I really do the shows that I want to do with music and talk and conversations, like that's a 90-minute show. 60 minutes, I'm right in the window. But I need a good 90 minutes. So a shout out to the Military Broadcast Radio Network. Look, that right there, if you click that, scan that, you can donate to this platform. They take care of us. They provide all the services here, help support not just my show, but all the shows that are on this platform. My brothers and sisters at arms, first responders, their loved ones, their family members. There's lots of shows that you can go to mbradio.us and check them out. Catch me Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific time, and catch me at KCA Radio on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. All right. I appreciate you for listening, tuning in. I'm going to play some PSAs. I'm going to wrap it up. I got class tonight. It's my Wednesdays is my development day. So I'm out of here. I appreciate y'all. I'm going to play 2 PSAs real quick. Oh, if you want information, got to go to farrond.com for all the things that I'm up to. You can find it there. You want that sickle cell trait conversation, wdconst.org. And again, if you go to farrond.com, everything that is a link there will lead you back to whatever aspect of life that I'm up to that's important to me. You can find it out at farrond.com. I got to say this, though, before I get out of here. So as a basketball owner, co-owner, the IE Hounds, the Inland Empire Hounds, are in season. And if you would like to be involved in that conversation, I don't even think I have I do. Oh, there it goes. Boom. Go to iahounds.com. You can check out the platform for the basketball ministry. We are in 2 games in so far. We're 1-1 as a team. Our next home game is November 23rd at the Norton Gym in San Bernardino. For me, it's a basketball ministry. So if you'd like to support that, we have campaigns for the love of dogs. We have the sickle cell trait hydration campaign, and of course the mental health, mental toughness campaign. But you're able to bring whatever you care about. If you're in the Inland Empire, you want to be a part of it, bring your company, bring your brand, celebrate with us at a game, come and watch a game. If you'd like to do a fundraiser with us, we're offering 30% off the ticket price that will go to your cause or the cause that you care about, so that you can help support either what we do or what you care about. For me, as men, as a basketball identity that I have and still have, sometimes we got to figure out what's next, right? So I went from not being able to shoot baskets and being on the court to now being in the role of a basketball owner. So I'm still connected to the game, right? I'm still connected to the basketball. The level of owning a team or being a co-owner of a team, it's way different than being the guy that just gets to show up to practice and shoot the hoop. It's all important, all pieces that go together. But I'm responsible for finding the companies, the brands, the money. Like this ABA is not cheap. It's a real business. And so if you want to be a part of the ABA, the IA Hounds, go to iahounds.com. Click around the page. You'll see the sponsorship deck. You can see you can see everything that you need to know about the IA Hounds is all on there. You can go there, click that. We're looking for brands to partner with us for the dog campaign. We're looking for interviews from dog breeders to grief counseling for pet owners. I'm in that category. I had to put my dog down, Daisy, 2022. And we talked about grief earlier. Never dealt with that grief. Put that grief of my dog in the back of my mind. And then becoming this co-owner of the IA Hounds. The mascot is a dog. What better way to express myself and free up those emotions about my dog to help other people. I don't want another pet. A little bit part of me does, but my emotional state says nope. So I'll contribute in helping other people support their dogs and support dogs from adopting to vaccines to medical care. That dog world is a serious world. That dog world is very serious. And there's a lot of conversations around it nationwide for dogs and cats. So we're starting off with the dogs. We're including the cats as well, and all the other animals, right? So, but we're focused on the dogs with our team. So go there, iahounds.com. Be a part of our brand this season. We got a great sponsorship package for you that you can pick from. We can a la carte it to fit your budget. But join us. Come and hang out with us. Come to the game. We can seat 200 people in the gym right now that we're in right now. So the first 200, y'all got a spot to get in. All right. I appreciate y'all for listening in. This is the Farron Dozier Show on the Military Broadcast Radio Network. I'm going to drop these PSAs and then I'm out of here. I appreciate you.
Do you remember studying sickle cell in biology class? What's the Count on Sickle Cell Trait Prevention is here to bring you awareness, education, and prevention conversations around the risk factors of this inherited gene. Visit wdconsct.org.
Muchos de nosotros nos vemos afectados por la enfermedad de células falciformes a diario y un número creciente simplemente no nos damos cuenta. Los impactos de esta enfermedad afectan a todas las personas y en especialmente a las personas de color y con antecedentes diversos. Estar en servicio conmigo y con los demás a medida que creamos una mayor conciencia sobre cómo identificar y dirigir el tratamiento de los rasgos de células falciformes y ayudar a las familias a saber cómo superar el trastorno de células falciformes. WDCONS
Zetovia salve, made from natural and organic ingredients, good for inflammation, poor circulation, hemorrhoids, yeast infection, lip sores, dry coughs, eye pain, minor cuts and bruises, and ready to purchase at botanicaherbalco.com. BOTANICAHERBALCO.com. botanicaherbalco.com.
Tune in to the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCARadio.com website on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific Time. Brought to you by Sports Collective TV, Sports Collective Radio, and Sports Collective Media. We got the Heme Factor, we got In the Zone, and we got Fourth Down in the 20-second timeout sports segment. All for you right here on the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCARadio.com website with my guest hosts Robert Lamar and Coach Will. Catch us on Sports Collective Media on Instagram and Facebook. And make sure you watch us Sunday nights at 8 p.m. on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCARadio.com website. Music, talk, sports, and so much more in the Farron Dozier Show. This is Farron from the Farron Dozier Show, 8 p.m. Pacific Time on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAA.com website, the station that leaves no listener behind, and MBR Radio. That's right, MBR Radio on all their streaming platforms, including MBR Radio on Roku TV, Sunday nights live, 8 p.m. Pacific Time on KCAA Radio and MBRradio.us. The Farron Dozier Show. For more information, search farrond.com.
Justice Jackson, they captured Herman Goring alive.
Tell me about him.
He's the face of the Nazis. I'm gonna put Goring on trial.
If it escapes the hangman's noose. Very sure of yourself.
No man has ever beaten me.
Goring has to fall.
You don't just have to win, you have to be flawless.
You're walking into a trap.
Knowing what we know now, would you still follow Adolf Hitler?
Nuremberg, rated PG-13, now playing only in theaters.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.